Hi, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of Echoes of the Wild. I'm your host, Matt, and today we're traveling deep into the forests of Europe and beyond with someone who's devoted his life to understanding and protecting one of the world's most misunderstood animals, the wolf. Mich Biesbroek, known simply as Mich, is a certified animal tracker, primitive skills instructor, and passionate conservationist. He spent nearly a decade following the tracks of wolves across the Netherlands, Belgium, Slovakia, and even the United States. Mich works with the Slovak Wildlife Society and is a core member of Werkgroep Wolf Nederland and runs his own nature connection company, Onder de Berk. His story is one of wild landscapes, field research, and helping people rediscover their place in nature. We'll just dive right in here, and Mitch, it's an honor to have you here for our very first episode. I've been looking forward to this conversation and have done a lot of research on you and your background, and it's really impressive with all the work that you've done, not only in the field but with conservation in general, when it comes to protecting the wolves and ensuring their success and their growth.
Well, thank you, Matt. I'm happy to be here, and thanks for inviting me. And it feels like it's an honor to be the first guest on this new episode, new podcast. So very cool.
Definitely. And, we're going to dive right in here. And my first question for you is, when did your fascination with wolves and nature really begin?
To be honest, I think it was always there. I remember when I was 4 years old, I was asking my grandfather, like, when will wolves return to the Netherlands? And he would talk to me about it and said, well, I'll go check with some well-known nature experts in the Netherlands and get back to you. And then, like a few weeks later, he would come back and, well, they're talking about it, but we're not sure. So he'd keep me on the hook for several years about this. And meanwhile, like my grandparents and my parents would take me out into nature every day. I think every day after school, I was out in the dunes and in the woods looking for just whatever I could find, and usually wildlife. So yeah, this has started very early.
And, now that, you're obviously an adult, what was that moment or experience that reignited that connection for you?
Yeah, exactly. Because this fascination, this kept on until I was early adult, I guess. And I even went to Wyoming to go there to live out in the great wilderness and the big sky country and stuff like that. But when I came back and I started adulthood, I kind of had to work and had to take care of people, and nature got pushed to the background until I guess about 15 years ago or something like that. And I was sort of like burned out from work. And my doctor actually told me, well, go hiking because I think that this would be good for you. And I started hiking again, and I really loved it. And I loved like rediscovering animal tracks that my grandfather and my father already was showing me as a child. Now I was rediscovering them, and I took this primitive skills course at the company that I now work for, Bosbeweging, and that really got me super excited, and it kind of ignited the flame even more. Then, and then about 10 years ago, wolves came back, and then yeah, the little spark was a flame. It was like almost like a forest fire. It was completely crazy about nature again.
No, it must have been so cool, especially, hearing at such a young age about the possibility of wolves coming back. And then before you know it, as an adult, they come back. And what was that first moment like for you that, you realized that wolves were back in the Netherlands? And especially you're kind of, anticipating it, gearing up for it a little bit with, your tracking knowledge. How exciting was that for you?
Yeah, this was very exciting. It was absolutely crazy. I remember when they were coming back, and I was, like I just said, I was just into tracking again and into nature, and so when they were coming back, I was like, I need to find them. I have to figure out a way to find them. So I really, it was such a catalyst for me to dive even deeper into tracking and nature by just learning everything I could find about wolves and just studying them and learning what they need in a habitat. Like, where would they, if they come to the Netherlands, where would they go? Would they go to a densely populated area, or would they go to secluded places? what kind of prey do they need? Um, and I went really nuts on that, and like got maps and started drawing on them, like that got to be somewhere over here and there, and in the end, I kind of figured like it's got to be over here, and I went there on this one rainy day, and felt really special because there was nobody else in the woods, and it was like raining a lot, and it just felt sort of like primordial, I guess, or primitive. And sure enough, I found my first wolf scat there, and kind of blew me away. It's such a difference between like knowing that they're there or actually feeling and seeing that they're there. There's a big difference in this, and um, this was actually one of my still to date, and I think I found like thousands of animal scat by now, of wolf scats by now, but I think to date that was still one of the freshest ones that I found, because it was still it was still steam coming off of it. So yeah, that was amazing.
And with finding that scat, were you also able to encounter a wolf for the first time as well, or were you not lucky that time?
Um, no, not that time. Um, Finding a wolf actually took quite a while for me. But by now I've seen quite a few of them. But back in the day, like I think within the next 6 months, I remember like sitting near that same spot where I found that cat, and it was early morning, and I was having breakfast in the woods on a crossing, and I was looking at a mother roe deer. I don't think it's a species that you have in the States, but it's like a small deer. Um, a mother roe deer and her young, and crossing the road, and they didn't really notice me, so they were really just casually strolling along and walking into the woods. And then I heard this like growl like sound, and lots of ruckus, and lots of squealing, and mother roe deer barking for alarm, and this was happening like right behind my back, like maybe 20, 30 meters away from me, but really dense forestry area, so I couldn't see anything. But that gave me like goosebumps all over, because I've been talking to quite a few people since that happened, and it can't have been anything else but that first wolf that came to the Netherlands that took that young roe deer. So yeah, that was pretty amazing moment. Yeah.
No, that's incredible, and for that to be your first experience too with a wild wolf is incredible, especially the serenity of being just you in nature, and for you to stumble upon such a cool experience. Definitely could see how that can get your blood going and continue to have this as your passion. And the next thing I want to talk about here is you've talked about your upbringing, and also your experience with learning tracking and stuff like that. uh you've talked about your grandparents, talking about the coming back of the wolves, but were there any early mentors or personal breakthroughs during that time that really had you continue on your path to becoming a wildlife tracker?
Um, there for sure there've been lots of mentors. Um, I think the first one was the founder of the company. Were actually the two founders of the two companies that I now teach at. One is Bosbeweging, and its founder was Jurjen. And he was really into more like the primitive side of tracking, the intuitive side of tracking. And he noticed, I think, a little bit of a kindred spirit in me, so he shared a lot about his tracking knowledge and the books that inspired him. And I dove right into that. And the other one is Jeroen from Wayland Tracking, the other company I teach at. And I think it's a little bit of the same. I came there, I did one day course, and I've never left. I've never left. So um, he helped me as well, and continued to keep on challenging me to do better, be better, and find better tracks and learn more. So yeah, they were really influential for sure.
Yeah, that brings me to my next point too. In addition to tracking, you've actually turned this into teaching as well. Obviously, through your experience and just overall experience. What drew you into that part of the work?
I'm sorry, I didn't really hear that well. The primitive skill side, is that what you're asking about?
Yeah, so in addition to tracking, you also teach now. What drew
Yeah.
you into that part of the work?
All right. Yeah, the teaching. I think I don't know. I think I'm just the kind of person that really likes if he gets excited about something, he wants to share it with others. Um, and it's really difficult for me not to do that, not to share information, not to share my enthusiasm with others. Um, so I think that's really the way it happened. I started teaching to make other people better. I really started just to share my enthusiasm, which is a really different approach, and maybe not the best approach, I'll admit. But by now, I've had so many good teachers myself that have taught me how to teach that I can understand much better now how to get somebody to become a better tracker or become better at certain primitive skills. But it's been like a lot of self-taught and some good mentors to get me there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the things that makes a great teacher is enthusiasm. So I would love to participate maybe in one of your courses someday and really take part in that. That would be really cool.
Well, yeah, be welcome.
What's it like to introduce people to tracking or nature awareness for the first time? And then also, if you could tell me about the role of bosbeweging and whalen tracking in your company, Onder de Berk.
Yeah. I think something really special happens if you introduce somebody to the stories that you can find in nature, and the awareness that comes with that helps you find those stories. And I think that's one of the reasons why we all do it. You can see those lights go on inside people's heads and just see the wonder and amazement. And that is such a beautiful thing. For instance, last weekend I was teaching a course, um, and while at the course, a great spotted woodpecker stopped by. This is an animal that I see a lot. Like I see it every day. But for these people, this was the first time they ever saw this, and there was kids like going berserk on this great spotted woodpecker. And to be able to be there and experience that with them for their first time is just it's really really beautiful and very rewarding to be there. And I think that's what we do with all the companies that I work for, including my own. And that's the goal to widen the consciousness of those people and to create a bigger awareness and to like fuel their wonder, their sense of wonder, I guess.
That's really interesting and something I resonate with also, just because a few months back I went on a kayaking tour in New Orleans. And, I was with a bunch of people that aren't necessarily nature enthusiasts or anything. And they were able to
Yeah.
see alligators for the first time, and their wonderment and their amazement, seeing the alligators in that experience, definitely can resonate with how you see your own students and your own people that you take on tours. So that's really cool.
Yeah, isn't it beautiful? I mean, they light up. The whole face lights up. It's really nice.
Definitely. So I want to shift gears here and talk a little bit more about your experiences across Europe. You've tracked wolves across multiple countries. What have those experiences been like for you?
Um, they've been really, really educational and really inspiring every time. I think traveling is just really good for the soul and really good for understanding the world around you so much better. Um, I remember the first time I came to Slovakia, where I work as a guide every winter or as a volunteer guide to take citizen scientists out in the Tatra Mountains in Slovakia to monitor large carnivores like bear and wolf and lynx. And they do this every winter during a specific time, so there'll be snow, so they can track in the snow. Um, and I went there going like, snow's got to be really easy to track. And when I met those people over there, they were like, "You can track in sand? That's amazing." For me, sand was like the easiest place to track because that's where I'm from. So there's sand. There's a lot of sand over here. So for me, tracking on sand is easy, but tracking on snow, well, I figured it was easy. But then I came over there and I realized it was much more difficult than I thought it would be. So you learn a lot. You learn a lot from traveling. You learn because there's different substrates everywhere, and there's different species, and if there's a different landscape, the animals will behave differently on that landscape than they'll do in your own place. So that's very educational as well. And you connect with the people over that because they can share their local knowledge and you share your own local knowledge, which is different, and you can kind of like figure out like how does that work? Why is it different? And it's really, really nice to do.
I want to dive into that a little bit further. What are the differences in environments or challenges between places like the Netherlands, Belgium, Slovakia, and even the United States, where I'm from?
Right. Well, for instance, with in Slovakia, there's sometimes there's like 2 feet of snow or 3 feet of snow, and there's a wolf or a deer walking through that snow. Um, the track is at the bottom, so how are you going to see what it is? You can't really tell by the track, by the footprint itself. Like you could see it in the sand. You could count the toes and see the metacarpal and all that, but when it's that deep in the snow, you can't do it. So you have to um, become more acquainted with the gait of the animal, with like how it walks, and you have to figure out other ways to do it. For instance, like I remember on the first time I was in Slovakia, I was with this uh, female guide, and she was really good. And I was like, how can I see this? How can I see what kind of track it is? She says, well, dive in with your hand and feel, because at the bottom it will be frozen, so you can feel the toes of the wolf or of the ungulate, and then And that was like mind blowing to me. Like, wow, that's amazing to figure it out like that. So that's just one of many examples, I guess.
No, that's so interesting that, you really have to incorporate all of your senses when you're out there. Obviously, sight is a big one, but the fact that you actually, have to stick your hand down there and feel where, the anatomy of the wolf's paws are, that's that's really cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Switching up here, I'm curious about your current work at, the Werkgroep Wolf Nederland. What's the mission of that organization?
Well, thanks for that. Yeah, Werkgroep Wolf, which basically translates to work group wolf, like study group wolf, I guess. I think our mission is to promote coexistence between humans and wolves. So we tend to say we're not pro or against the wolf. We're just accepting that he's here and figuring out together how we can do this in the most effective way for everyone. And that's been a challenge, especially lately. There's been a few incidents in the Netherlands that have gotten a lot of media attention, worldwide, I think even. But that just shows that the work is necessary as well. There's a lot of misinformation going around, and we try to be as factually as possible and prove those things with facts. Sorry, my English is not always up to par, but yeah.
Yeah, with that, how do you approach public perception, especially around, the reintroduction of the wolf in the Netherlands? And I know you have a different perspective on how wolves have gotten to the Netherlands as well.
Right, yeah. We tend not to say the reintroduction because they weren't introduced. They just came back on their own. which is one of those things that people try to argue with and say, no, no, they were reintroduced by small white fans coming from Poland, and they were drop wolves out there. And well, in fact, we can, prove with DNA analysis, you can see the whole trail from some of these animals coming from Poland, walking on their own, or Italy and other places. And some of them were collared, so we can really clearly see that they walked into our country on their own. So that's the type of things we have to sort of like make sure that the correct story is being told, that we keep to the facts, and yeah, no conspiracy theories like that.
Yeah, no, that's super funny that people were actually thinking that they were brought in by white fans from Poland. um, cool.
Yeah.
So the next thing I'm curious about is what's been the most effective way in your experience to create an understanding between the citizens of the Netherlands and wild animals, specifically the wolf.
Um, Communications. Just we one of the things we do is we take people out for wolf walks. So we do sort of like free excursions into wolf territories. Um, and when we do this, we'll share information about how wolves came back, and like how they live, how many there are, if they're dangerous or not, and like all the facts that we know, we try to share in those walks, and that's been really effective. We've had a lot of walks over the years in, I think, like 5 different places. Um, so that's one of the things we do, and another one is, I think, even despite everyone in our group refusing to say that we would be experts. I don't think we are. None of us are scientists. None of us have done really deep studies of the wolf, but nonetheless, we are approached more often these days to express our views on the matter, and which is something I can understand because we've been working on it for quite a long time, and we've been collecting information that others have, um, like found and shared to spread with the general public. So that's another way that's been really effective, really, really helpful, I think, in changing people's perspectives.
No, that's such an important part of it too, and to understand too that there's been an increase in overall interest too from the public, um, being proactive and wanting to learn more and getting a different perspective. I think is such an important part of coexistence as well. Awesome.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So the next thing I'm curious about is a little bit more into your experiences with the Slovak Wildlife Society's White Wilderness. What does that program involve?
It's an amazing program. Uh, See, it started by this one British guy named Robin Rick, who is himself, in fact, a biologist. And he came to Slovakia and realized that there could be some great things could be done to protect large carnivores over there in that area. And he realized that there could be a big difference between, what he saw was a big difference between um, the amount of animals of large carnivores in Slovakia that were being reported by animal activists on the one hand. They would say like, "Wow, there's only 50 wolves left," or something like that. And on the other hand, what was reported by hunters who said 50, there's 5,000 or 50,000 wolves. And so he said, well, there's got to be a way to figure out what is true, what's correct, because if we have some evidence-based information, then we can really work with good policy on a national level. So he decided to start this project and to start monitoring on basis of DNA sampling and just good measuring of tracks and registering of tracks. And he found that the amount of wolves that were being reported by the hunting association was uh, I think more than 5 times what uh, the amount of wolves that there were actually were, which is a big difference. And this is not anything against the hunting association. There's plenty of people in there that like wolves. It's not anything political. It's just it's more like a mathematical thing. Like wolves tend to travel in a lot, like quite a big distance. So if you have a wolf and he stops by hunter one, and hunter one says, "Ah, that's one wolf," and then he walks on, and then he goes next to the hunter two, and hunter two says, "Ah, that's one wolf," and then on and on and on, and he does that 5 times. So 5 hunters say that's one wolf, and in the end, they say, okay, so we have counted 5 times a wolf, so that's 5 wolves. It's the same wolf being counted every time. So that's just it. If you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I want to follow up with a question there. I think that, and I might be making some assumptions here, but I think the motivation, especially from someone that might be a hunter, is if they're accounting for more wolves than there actually are, they're looking for reasons to say that they might need to be controlled in terms of their population. Do you think it's more so their own interest or their own maybe perception of their safety rather than counting methodology, or do you think that there's something else in there?
No, no, I really think it's just the way it is counted. There have been plenty of hunters that have helped with the program and that have been friendly to the program. There's this misconception that every hunter is against wolves, but this is not the case. There's plenty of people that like to hunt and love nature. This is really a mathematical problem. It's just they send it into one central database, and then like in an Excel sheet, you get one, 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 and then the administrator just clicks add all, and then it goes wrong. So
definitely
um,
could definitely could
but
see how that.
that had yeah, sorry.
I was gonna say, just I could definitely see how that ends up being a wrong number.
Yeah, um, but it's had a profound effect because Robin could present those numbers to government, and as a result of that, policies were changed. So there would be less hunting of wolves, and I think in some years even no hunting of wolves. So the population could restore itself a little. So it's been a really good project, and um, it's to be honest, like it's also for the citizen scientists that go there, the volunteers. It's amazing as well because you're there for a week and every day you're tracking large carnivores in the snow in the mountains. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's so beautiful, and to be there, it's just a lot of fun.
And do you have any interesting stories or something that's extremely memorable from your experiences in the Tatra Mountains?
So many, yes, so many. I think one really interesting. Let's see, it's hard to choose. I think like one of them was that I was with Robin there, and the temperature went down to minus 20 degrees Celsius. Not sure how cold that is in Fahrenheit, but it's like well below freezing. Um, and we were following this pack of wolves, um, when again we came across some scat. And in this case, the scat was still warm when we found it, and Rowan picked it up and it froze in his hand. So it kind of means like it was pooping around the corner, heard us, ran away, and then we turned the corner, which was for us completely insane, to be that close. Um, but there's many stories. Like we've been following wolf packs for whole days, and just if you do this, you'll learn so much about the animals because you can see them playing and you can see them searching deer beds to go for hunting, where they sleep, how they move across the landscape. Like what areas do they avoid? Will they avoid going over a hill, or will they always go a little bit alongside the top? And That kind of stuff is just really helpful to understand the animals. It's really cool.
And what's that experience like for, some of the people that you're taking on these guided tours to see a wolf for the very first time? Obviously, that might be a really eye-opening and interesting experience for those people.
That would be, but we never do. We never find the wolf, so we just look at the tracks. I think if we go and we actually would see wolves, that would be amazing. I know in like the Slovak Wildlife Society, the White Wilderness Weeks, it's been going on for over 10 years, and I think only once did they see a wolf by pure accident. So there's usually no wolf sightings. For me, like I said, I've seen thousands of tracks, and I've hardly ever seen a wolf. Like I can count them on two hands, I guess. One of them being a week long in Lamar Valley in Yellowstone. Yeah, there you get to see a lot of them because the landscape is really open and wide, and it's really easy to see them. But in Europe, it's really hard. Um,
Well, I didn't
Way too
realize
dense forest.
I didn't realize when you sent me some videos from this past weekend that it was such a rare occurrence that it's funny timing, especially that we were having this interview this week.
I absolutely agree. I was really amazed myself.
That's incredible.
This is the first time in I think 2, 3 years that I saw a wolf. Yeah.
Wow, unbelievable. Cool. I want to
Yep.
switch gears here and kind of also goes hand in hand with your experience in the Tetra Mountains, and you're currently running a GoFundMe to support your new GPS units for your team in Slovakia. Can you tell us about the campaign and what those GPS units are going to be used for?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. Yeah. Yeah, we're holding this crowdfunding because like everything that we do with the project is basically funded by the volunteers that come over to help us out, and um, sometimes some grants from the European Union and stuff like that. But so it's been, we're really frugal with our stuff. But these GPS devices that we use to register all the tracks, they're getting really old, so they're really dodgy and they don't work very well. And so we started a crowdfunding to just get some new GPSs, and this is like really, I think in like work life and in businesses, it would be like a really small amount. We're hoping to raise like $3,000. But for us, that means like every team can have a GPS and search for wolves again. So yeah, that's a big goal of us to get some new GPSs.
No, it sounds like that's going to make a really big impact. And for anyone that is listening to this podcast, please do consider. I will put in the show notes the link to Misha's GoFundMe account. So please do consider making a contribution, and I will also be doing that as well. Awesome.
Cheers, man. Thanks.
For sure. Awesome. And then going into our next segment, which is going to be a little bit more personal and more on your day to day. You live just outside The Hague, overlooking a coastal nature reserve. What's it like to live in such an immersed kind of environment?
It's hopeless. It's horrible. It's really bad. um, I don't do anything else except just I spend all my free time in nature now. There's really anything else just gets second place by now because whenever I look outside, like right behind me, um, I'll see roe deer living their lives and foxes. There's like I think I have three den sites of foxes, a red fox from my living room, and there's peregrine falcons, and there's just so much wildlife going on here that I can just look at straight from my living room. So um, no, it's. I mean, this is obviously it's not a complaint. It's amazing, but it does come with the consequences. I just don't do a lot of anything else anymore. I don't go out at all. I just want to go into the woods because It's just so much more fun.
Honestly, I would be the same exact way if I lived there, and I've been to Scheveningen before, and it's such a unique environment, especially with the dunes and the brush. And I've honestly never really taken the time to observe nature while I was there. But next time I am there, I'll definitely stop and take a better look and see what I could find.
You definitely should. It's the most biodiverse area in the Netherlands. Um, so I think 1/3 of all birds that we have nest over there. We have like half of all the flora in here. So yeah, no, it's very biodiverse and a very interesting landscape. Yeah.
How has living over there, shaped your daily life and your relationship with nature?
Um, it's done a lot for it, I think, because I don't think like in our Western society, we've become so separated from nature that we don't really see the day-to-day lives from animals anymore as much as we used to. And if we do, we kind of tend to ignore it, right? Like we still have lots of pigeons, but nobody looks at a pigeon. We just try to ignore them or stuff like that. But living here, I get to see it all the time. I get to see them play. I get to see them um, have children and see them how they raise them. And that's come with a lot of realizations, like how much they are involved in raising their children compared to us. I mean, we tend to go to work and do our other stuff in the house, and like to maintain the household and stuff. And raising the children is something that we do it, but we do it a whole lot less than a lot of animals that I've seen. Are just full days of teaching them, and it's interesting. It's really interesting to see.
No, there's definitely a lot of lessons to be learned just from observing nature. And with that, what are some words of advice that you can give to the average person who might not be immersed in nature on a daily basis to get more involved and just to be a more active participant in nature?
Um, yeah, good question. I think I would say slow down, sit down even. Just go sit somewhere and sit there for half an hour and look around you. Um, like I said with the pigeons, I mean, I used to live in the middle of town, and I would just see concrete everywhere I would look. But I would have a balcony, so I would put down some food and just watch the birds that would come over. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot from the chickadees that came over because I learned if a magpie would come over, they would sound an alarm, but they would sound a different alarm if a jay would come over. So I learned various alarm calls of chickadees by sitting close to my balcony in for half an hour a day. And you can just slow down and sit down. It would be the best advice I think I could give.
No, that's great advice. And it's funny, the other day I saw a video of a magpie in the Netherlands. And honestly, I could have a whole conversation with you just on that bird because that was like the first time I really realized what kind of bird that was because I've been to the Netherlands before, but didn't realize how complex they were and how cool they are in terms of their behaviors.
They're amazing. I'm good friends with the magpies that live next door, that live down there. They're really loud and they're really clear on their on what they like and what they don't like. So sometimes young foxes come over and they're really I don't even have to look to know there's a fox there. I'll just hear it from coming through the window. And on the other hand, I'm like feeding them occasionally, just to become like friends with them. And now it's like yesterday morning, I was still asleep, and this magpie flew up to the window and sort of like started to complain that I hadn't put any food there yet. So it's just waking up to the sound of a magpie being annoyed was an interesting experience.
That's funny. No, I've definitely gotten to see them a few times, and for our listeners, basically they're a fairly large white and black bird, and they have some really interesting personalities as well. But For me, that is pretty much all I have today, Mish, and just wanted to thank you for your time and sharing your experiences, your knowledge, and then just to remind our listeners, please take a look at his GoFundMe account. It's going to really help him continue his great work and continue to help preserve the wolf populations in all across Europe. And thank you so much. And we'll keep in touch. And next time I'm in the Netherlands, we'll get together and maybe have a kopje koffie.
Please do, Matt, and thank you so much for the invitation and for this conversation. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome. Thank you so much.